Beta readers are the unsung heroes of the literary world. Should you use them? How do you find them? And how do you work with them? Well, in this video, I'm going to talk about all things beta readers. What's up, guys? Michael Laron here with Author Level Up, helping you write world-class stories better and faster. And I create these videos because I believe that each of you has George R.R. Martin talent, and you just need help unlocking it. So if you're new here, consider subscribing and click that little bell, ding, 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 to get notifications every time I have a new writing video. And we're talking about beta readers, the only video for beta readers you'll ever need. So first off, let's define the term beta readers. Beta readers are usually volunteers who sign up to read your book and offer you feedback before your book goes to an editor. So they're going to comment on what's working, what doesn't work, any inconsistencies they find, and any other general comments that either takes them away from the story or something that they really like. You may have also heard the term alpha reader, and a alpha reader is different than a beta reader in that an alpha reader is typically going to read the story before it is complete. So while you're writing the story, or maybe you finish the first draft and you send that draft to an alpha reader, they provide the same level of comments, and then you incorporate those comments into the finished draft, and then you send that to beta readers. So in terms of who they are, they're kind of the same people, but usually an alpha reader is going to be a trusted writer or somebody that you really trust, whereas a beta reader is going to be your typical reader in your genre or your subgenre who just happens to like the books that the type of books that you like to write. Beta readers, like I said, are usually volunteers. They usually are unpaid, and they usually have full-time jobs, families, and other obligations that they need to tend to. And so that's why I say that they are the unsung heroes of the literary world. Now, as I said, you typically involve a beta reader in the process after you've finished self-editing your novel and before it goes to an editor. So the beta reader is kind of like your first line of defense before it goes off to any kind of editing. If you send your book to an editor and then you send it to a beta reader, you've got it backwards. That's the wrong order. Now the next question is, well, why would you use a beta reader, right? Because we're going to hire an editor, so why do we need a beta reader? Well, I think a lot of writers can attest to the fact that editors are really great. Editors have a lot of expertise and experience, but there's no feedback like feedback from a typical reader. Readers will typically look at things that editors won't even catch, right? So if they like to read the books that you like to write, they're going to let you know on what they like, what they don't like, and maybe what you can fix in order to appeal to other readers just like them. That is the true power of enlisting a beta reader. So the next question is, where do you find beta readers? There are three major places where I think you can find them. The first is in a writing community. So there are a lot of different writing communities out there where beta readers gather, and they kind of facilitate and organize different ways to read and request writers' books who need beta reader assistance. There are different communities out there, and depending on when you watch this video, I just don't know when you're going to be watching it, so I'm not going to name drop any names, but you could simply find them by going to Google and typing in beta reader community, or by asking other writers that you know where they found their beta readers. The second place you can find beta readers is within your own community. So if you've published a few books and you've got a mailing list, why not just send out an email to your mailing list and say, hey, I've got a new book that's coming out pretty soon, and I would love to find any beta readers who'd be willing to read it. And you might be surprised who raises their hand and wants to read your book. So don't discount the power of your community when looking for beta readers, because one, they're already going to know your work, and two, they're going to be more engaged. The third place to find beta readers, and this is the place that I've been using lately, is a freelance website like Upwork. I bet you didn't know this, but there are a lot of readers out there who are starting to charge money for their services. So a beta reader that says, I'll read your book for X amount of dollars, right? And some people may say, well, why would you want to pay a beta reader? That's kind of crazy, right? Because historically, the way we've always done it is we've done it for people unpaid. They've always been volunteers. Think about it like this. If you got paid to read books for a living, would you do it? It'd be the best job in the world, wouldn't it? It'd be awesome. So a lot of people, I think, are starting to realize that. And the second thing I want you to think about, and it's something we're going to cover a little bit later, is that a paid beta reader is a beta reader who meets their deadlines, because that is one of the bigger problems with beta readers. So while a lot of people will still vouch for the unpaid beta readers, I'm starting to see the value in paying your beta readers, even just a small amount, as a way to get them engaged and give them an incentive to finish the work for you. So who do you pick for your beta reader, right? So maybe you've gone to a writing community and there are several people that have replied to your post. Maybe there are several people that have raised their hands in your community, or maybe you've made a post on Upwork and you've got a lot of different people that are interested. Your North Star, and this is my advice that I've learned the hard way over the last 7 years, is to pick beta readers who actually read books in the subgenre of the book that you are writing. If you write cozy mysteries, find beta readers that like to read cozy mystery novels. Better yet, find beta readers that maybe that's all they read, or that's a large portion of what they read. If you write cozy mystery, the worst thing you can do is get a beta reader that loves to read science fiction, because they're just not going to be able to give you the level of tailored feedback that you actually need. Like, they're not going to give you the feedback that something every cozy mystery reader would balk at, right? They're going to be more dialed into the genre, and so therefore I would weed out anybody that does not have experience in your genre. I know that can be hard, especially if you can't find somebody, but be very strict about this. And then the next question: how many beta readers should you pick? You know, if you've got a bunch of people that are signed up, how many is enough? Well, my golden rule of thumb is golden rule of thumb. Wouldn't that be a funny site? Digression. My rule of thumb is between 3 and 5 people. Okay, so if you have, let's say, 4 people, and then 2 of them for whatever reason bow out and can't do it, at least you're going to have 2 more people that are going to provide you feedback. If you do just 1, you're kind of living on the edge, because if that person doesn't want to, or gets into your book and doesn't like it, or they no longer have the time and maybe they overcommitted themselves, then you're kind of screwed. And if you do like 7 or 10 people, well, then you're just editing by committee at that point. And there is such a thing as having too many beta readers. So this is going to maybe sound a little bit cutthroat of me, but I'm going to say it, and I'm going to say it because it needs to be said. When you're working with beta readers, you have one goal. This one goal is your North Star, okay? Your one goal is to ensure on-time delivery of their comments, okay? Your one goal is to ensure that your beta readers complete their comments and deliver them to you on time. And the reason this sounds a little strange for me is because I just said these are volunteers. These are people that have other obligations, and they have a full-time job, and they don't just sit around and read books all day for other writers. They have other things they have to do. But your number one goal is to make sure that you can get them to give you the feedback that you need on time. So here are the steps that I would follow if I were you to make sure that you get the most value out of this process and that you get your feedback on time. First things first, as I said, get 3 to 5 people in your corner. You want 3 to 5 people who have experience in reading extensively in the subgenre of the book that you're writing. And you want 3 to 5 people in case a couple of them fall through, you're still going to end up with your comments. Next thing, figure out what it is that you want to learn. What is it that you want your beta readers to focus on? There are different schools of thought here. Some people, they just believe in sending the manuscript over to the beta readers and letting the beta reader comment on what they thought was important. Other people are on the opposite side of that spectrum. They will send the manuscript to the beta reader with a questionnaire or a list of things that they want the reader to answer. My approach is probably somewhere in the middle. I would figure out what are the 3 to 4 problem areas of the book. Maybe there are a couple areas where I want their opinion. Maybe there was a fight scene or a reveal that I'm a little, maybe other readers might not like it, so I want to get their direct thoughts on that. I would come up with 3 or 4 things. And what I would do is I would use a Google form, and I would put those 4 things on a form so that they can just type in what the response is. And then at the bottom of that form, I would just say other comments. Okay. Some of you may wish to have your beta readers use track changes on a Microsoft Word doc. If your beta reader is willing to do that, that's a lot of work. But if they're willing to do that, that's cool. But I think the easiest way, the way to reduce the friction is just to use a Google form and send them a link to that form. And then that way they can provide their feedback however they want. So you've picked your beta readers, you figured out what you want to learn. Now the next question, and this is a question I got on Twitter, is, well, do you have them sign a non-disclosure act? Well, what is a non-disclosure act? A non-disclosure act is a contract that basically says that the reader, when they sign it, they will not disclose anything that they saw in the novel. Do you need that? My answer, I think that's a bit extreme. I think that's crazy, quite honestly. Now, if you're George R.R. Martin, you know, or if you're J.K. Rowling and you decide to write an 8th Harry Potter book, yeah, you probably do want people to sign a non-disclosure act. But I don't think it's necessary, personally. I just don't know any beta readers out there that are going to go read something and then go off and leak it. It's just, you know, if you're worried about that, have you picked the right people for your work? And the answer, in my thought, is you don't need a non-disclosure act. Michael Laron's opinion only. So before I do anything, I need to pick a date that I need to send this off to my editor, and then I want to work backwards from that date, okay? So let's go back. Let's say I want to send the book to my editor by May 15th, okay? So that means that I need to have the novel prepared, and I need all of my feedback at least 2 days prior to that, okay? So what I also want to make sure I do is I want to build in a buffer, because I know that my beta readers are going to be having other things going on. In late April, we're going to have to worry about Easter, and so there's going to be a holiday thing I got to think about. So I'm going to build in a 2-week buffer for anybody that's a late or straggler, okay? And so I've got the buffer, 2 weeks, okay? And then I'm going to want to give my beta readers 2 weeks before that. So I'm only going to give them 2 weeks. I'm not telling them I have a buffer, but I'm going to give them, I'm going to say, I want this back within 2 weeks, so that when the buffer period begins, hopefully I will have all that information back. Okay, but if I don't, again, I've got that buffer. Okay, so I've got the editor, and then I've got the time where it's the drop dead, to give myself some time to incorporate the reader comments into my story. And then I've got the 2-week buffer period. And then I've got the 2-week period where I tell my beta readers I actually need them to do the work. And then, if you think about it, you've also got to build in some time to deliver the books to them. So they may have technical issues getting the books onto their devices. And so I may want to build in an additional 2 days to make sure that they get the book on their devices. So if I look at this from start to finish, I'm going to send out the welcome email. The email is going to have everything that they need to do and how to get the book onto their devices. Within the first 2 days, I'm going to make sure, and I'm going to be relentless, that they get all the books onto their devices so that they can read it. Then they have 2 weeks from that period to provide me the feedback. And then just on the back end, like I said, I don't tell them this, I give them an additional 2 weeks. And then once I hit that into the buffer period, I'm going to give myself 2 days to get the comments incorporated into the book, make any changes, and then May 15th, it's off to my editor. That is the process that I would follow. I would start with that end date and then work your way back. So what do you put in your welcome email? What do you say? How does that work? So first things first, subject line is the most important thing you can do. Put the need by date in your subject line, and then put the need by date in the first paragraph of your email, and then put the need by date in bold in the last paragraph of your email. That way they know exactly what the need by date is. It's a little obnoxious, but they know that you really do need this book by this date. So subject line is the first thing. Next thing is I would make sure you include a link to where they can download the book, instructions on if you use something like BookFunnel, what happens if they run into any trouble. I would also include a link to the Google form or whatever format you want to get their feedback in, and make sure that that link is valid. And then I would also thank them effusively for doing what they're doing, because they don't have to do it, right? It's going to be a volunteer job for many of them. And in that email, I would not just throw walls of text at them. I would break things up, use underlining, use bolding, use bullet points, make it very easy to read for them and very easy for them to digest, because like I said, they've got a million other things going on in their lives, and you just need to tell them what to do and how to do it. Now, how much time should you give them? In the example that I gave earlier, I gave them 2 weeks. That's what I think is probably enough for a 50,000 word novel. Now, if you've got a 100,000 word novel, maybe you need to give them a little bit more time. If you've got a 30,000 word novella or a very short work, maybe they need less time, but just figure out how much time you want to give them and be very, don't give them too much time. That's the thing. You don't want to give them 2 months to read something. You want to give them a limited amount of time so that it gives them a sense of urgency and a sense of accountability. Now, again, I can't say this enough. When you send them the book, don't just attach it in an email. Don't just send them a PDF or the EPUB or the Mobi and let them fend for themselves in getting the book on their device. That way lies madness. Be strategic about how you do this. Send them the book funnel link, explain how they use that to get the book on their device and what to do if they run into any trouble. And then what I want you to do is follow up relentlessly during the first 24 to 48 hours to at least make sure that the beta readers got the book on their device, because nothing will stall the process faster than the fact that they can't get the book on their device. You want them to be able to start reading as soon as possible. Next thing, once you have gotten them off to the races, once the book has been delivered on their device, I want you to check in with them regularly. So if you give them 2 weeks, that means the welcome email is the first check-in, another check-in reminder at 1 week, another check-in reminder at 3 days, and then another check-in reminder the day before. If people stop responding to your emails, then you know they're probably not going to reply, okay? If they continue responding to your emails, the check-ins are going to be that kind of prompt to get them to keep moving forward and make them realize, oh crap, I only got 3 days to read this, right? So remember, check in regularly. You can be a little obnoxious with this, but I think people understand that if you need something by a need-by date, it's okay to check in with them. Next thing, if a reader emails you and says, hey, I had a death in the family, or hey, I wasn't able to get to this because I've had a lot of things going on at home or at work, totally fine. Give them the time that they need, right? That's why we built in this buffer. If they need time that's beyond the buffer, that's fine too. As long as they give you some sort of feedback, that's great. But just remember, be gracious with them because this is not their full-time job. But me personally, if the rest of your beta readers are going to be able to meet your deadline, I would not let the feedback of one reader hold up the production of your book. Next thing, if someone stops responding to your emails or they say they can no longer do it, totally fine. Remember, you've already planned for this. Next thing, once they provide the feedback, read through the feedback, follow up with them on any follow-up questions that you have, and thank them. This is why I said they're the unsung heroes of the writing community. If you have unpaid beta readers, consider sending them a Amazon gift card as a thank you. If you have paid beta readers, which is what I recommend, then consider paying them immediately. Pay them promptly as soon as they provide the feedback. And again, follow up with them with any follow-ups that you might have. And also don't miss out on the opportunity to ask them if they'd like to beta read for your next book. Maybe you know that your next book is going to come out in January. And so you say, my next book is going to come out in January. Could I reach out with you to potentially beta read this next time? And if you were great to work with and they had a really good experience, then they're probably going to say yes. And so therefore, you've got somebody that's on lock the next time, and you're not going to have to worry so much about starting from scratch. Last thing, thank your beta readers in your acknowledgments, and then let them know, send them an email when the book launches. I think it's just a really good thing to do. And also, they may want to support you, and they may want to show their friends and their family that they help support an author, and that a book that was published on the market is something that they played a part in. Never underestimate that. People just love to share in your success. So be sure to thank them and send them that email once the book does go live. So this is the method that I followed over the years to make sure that I get my beta reader projects done on time. Because again, like I said, nothing will delay your project more than a beta reader not being able to follow up their end of the bargain. So if you build in some buffer time and you make sure that you're you're upfront with what you need and when you need it, that's going to minimize your chances of having a project go awry. And like I said, treat your beta readers well. These are good people. They don't have to do this. And you want to make sure that you let them know how appreciative you are of their services. So with that, I would love to hear your beta reader comments, your beta reader suggestions, your beta reader tips in the comments. So let's sound off and let's learn from each other, and let's all be efficient with our beta reader process. So with that, I will talk to you in the next video. Don't forget to subscribe. Peace.